Overcoming violence is not something any one person will have the solution for. But I think there's some things that we know as human beings. We know both intuitively and through our own use of science and research. We know that every human being needs to belong, that every human being needs meaning in life, and every human being needs some sense of autonomy, of power over their own lives, and that when we meet those needs, we don't see much violence. So that if we begin to think about how do we make sure that every baby that's born into this world has those needs met, that they belong, that there's opportunity for meaning in that child's life, and there's opportunity for some kind of autonomy in the person's life, that we won't have to struggle so much with violence. And so I think those are things we know, but we are not applying that information in a systematic way. And it's not easy to create that environment, those circumstances. But we have the knowledge that we need to create a world in which people have less need to be heard through violence, because very often a violent act is kind of a scream to be heard or to be seen, to have some kind of power in a person's life. So I think ultimately that's what we have to be paying attention to. In the meantime, we need to think about how do we create spaces where people who have not had those needs met can begin to experience that it's possible to meet those needs without using violence. And so that means creating lots and lots of spaces where people can be heard, spaces where individuals tell their story and are listened to deeply. And that's something that every human being has the capacity to provide as well. We don't need to be heard by professionals. We need to be heard by each other. So it doesn't take a degree, it doesn't take a lot of education to be able to provide that kind of listening to other human beings. So one of the things that's happening in the restorative justice work is beginning to use these techniques of listening deeply to one another in schools. And so children are learning these skills and are experiencing these skills in greater numbers than in the past. And I think that's going to help us to reduce violence. We need to think very differently about the nature of the world that we live in. And I think the most profound shift that we need to make in order to reduce violence is to increase our understanding of the interconnectedness of everything in the universe, so that we understand that if we cause harm to another, we actually cause harm to ourselves. And once we understand that harming another harms ourselves, then we will be much more thoughtful about the ways that we treat other human beings. And those are the things that I think about in terms of how do we create a world with less violence in it. Peace Baking Circle creates a space in which everyone is treated with dignity. Everyone is treated with respect. Everyone has a chance to use their voice and be heard. And so it meets these needs that I was talking about, these fundamental human needs for a sense of autonomy, right? To tell your story and be deeply heard gives you a sense of power in your own life, the sense of belonging that in the circle there's this very, very deep context of everyone belongs, everyone is important in the circle, that the circle wouldn't be the same if any one of the participants wasn't there. The sense of belonging and the sense of connection in the circle is very strong, and the opportunity to tell stories is the place where the human beings connect and see themselves in one another. We are creatures of stories. It's how we learn, it's how we connect to one another, and circles very much a storytelling process. The other need, meaning. Yes, human beings need a sense of meaning. Why am I here? What am I about? Meaning is so important to human beings. And the circle promotes the kinds of conversations that help people access their own sense of meaning. To tell your story is a part of searching for your own meaning and finding a pathway to what life means to you. And so the conversations in circle are much more likely to move to a level of meaning, whereas our normal daily conversations mostly are not at a really deep meaning level. And so many people are incredibly hungry for a space in which we're really paying attention to what's inside us, what really matters to us, what is it that we're reaching for in being alive. And the circle really promotes those kinds of conversations and gives people a chance to notice the deep urges that they have inside that in our daily life we don't even notice because we're moving too quickly and the conversations are mostly at a surface level. So this process in circle of being able to meet these deep needs, the need for power, the need for belonging, and the need for meaning, begins to change the way people understand their own place in the universe, and helps people to dig deep inside themselves for the best that they have to bring to the world. And when each of us begins to bring the best that we have inside us to the world, then we start to transform everything about how we live together.